I have had plenty of you tell me that you are so sick and tired of this heat and this humidity. Trust me, I am too. Not only is this not really my favorite season of the year, but I hate going to my mailbox and then already needing another shower because you sweat so much. This humidity is just killer out there. Now, it has been worse out there. Many of us talk about the summer of 1980, and I apologize that these numbers are kind of hard to read. I was working on this graphic trying to make the background a little less unclear, and I was somehow making it worse, so I decided I'm just going to stop while I'm ahead. Here's what we're looking at in terms of these records. 111 in that summer of 1980. Now, Corsicana and Hillsborough, we got to look to the early part of the last century. 1922 it was 104 in Corsicana, 1918 107. Now, some of these records here, these are not actual airport records necessarily, at least Corsicana and Hillsborough. I think we're having to look at co-op records because the airport records don't go back near as far, and co-op records can be a little more inconsistent. So just understand, this is what we've got. It's not necessarily as consistent as DFW Airport or one of those more established ones. Waxahachie's records don't go back that far, but you don't have to go too far to get really warm there with 108 degrees in 2012. Here's where we are today, not quite record-breaking, but it's still hot. 101, 102 across the area. Heat index values are probably reaching, I would say, near 110, if not maybe a little above. Now, yes, we talked last week about how 2 consecutive days of 110-degree heat index values, that is criteria for an excessive heat warning. Now, the National Weather Service makes the argument that that is pretty strict criteria, which is true, and that across their area, which, again, is 40 or so counties between Waco and the Red River, it's less refined there. It's more sporadic. Okay, now for our area, I think it's a done deal. I think it's pretty straightforward. They're looking for a much larger area of consistent heat index values of 110 or above, so they're not able to issue those excessive heat warnings. But I will tell you, for our area, it's pretty much a done deal. It's excessively hot out there. And overnights, not much help. 78, 79 across the area. It's just gross. Day, night, it doesn't stop. And here's why. So we have the dome of high pressure, and I love being able to actually illustrate this now. I've been talking about this dome for years. That's just the way I talk about it, but we have this dome of high pressure that's running everything. That's been keeping the upper level flow away from us. Now at the lower levels towards the surface, we do have those southerly winds that are keeping this stationary front in place. Now obviously the front, if it would move southward, would bring cooler temperatures and maybe some drier air, but it's stuck there because we have these southerly winds at the surface that are repelling that and bringing in all this humidity from the Gulf of Mexico. So that's kind of the way things are, and that's kind of the way things are going to stay. Now this dome, this ridge of high pressure, which again, the ridge is what you see going around it, that will move eastward a little bit and allow for things to change ever so slightly. Towards the middle of the week, we will be looking at the humidity dropping off maybe a little bit. We'll get more of a southwesterly flow, and there's more dry air in the southwest flow, obviously. I mean, you're talking about drier air out of Mexico. There's some moisture there from the Pacific, but it's a little bit of a different situation than just getting this straightforward air out of the Gulf of Mexico. So that will move eastward a little bit and could actually allow for a cold front to move in. Now, I'm not that optimistic about it, but it could happen. We'll have to watch and see what happens there. But it's going to bring the humidity down a little bit. Now, let's play good news, bad news. The bad news is it will still be very warm, and in fact, when you drop the humidity, that allows for temperatures to change more efficiently. Your humidity usually maintains a median a little bit better. This will allow temperatures to get up to 104, 105, 106 degrees across our area, which sounds oppressive, but the good news is when you drop the humidity, the body is able to cool itself down better. Here's the problem with that feels like temperature is people tell me all the time, well, if you say it feels like 110, just tell me it's 110. Here's the difference. We tell you the air temperature, not only because that's really what kind of runs things, but it's biological in terms of what it feels like, because perspiration and then the evaporation of that perspiration, basically when you sweat, the wind, that cool air, that cool breeze evaporating it, that is what cools you down. When it's humid, it doesn't cool down as easily. You don't evaporate as well, so your body's not able to regulate its temperature. That's why when you have a high humidity, 105, 106 can feel like 112, 115. Okay, so that's the big difference. That's why that matters, and that's why it's dangerous to your health to be out in this heat. So just keep that in mind. Now, we're not looking at much help from the tropics either. We've got tropical, the remnants of Tropical Storm Cindy here. She'll move up north into the Atlantic Basin there, and then that's pretty much just going to be it. There's not much happening in the main development region too, off of the west coast of Africa. It's kind of boring out there right now, so I'm sure that will change. We had a running start. We've already had 3 named storms at the end of June. It's been a pretty active season so far, but at the moment, not much going on out there, so not much to bring us rain. Today, 101, 102, then yes, Wednesday and Thursday, we're up to 105, 104. We should bring the humidity down ever so slightly, and we do have a breezier wind, okay? So, again, the bad news is 105, 104, 10, maybe 6 degrees if we get out there and are able to warm things up enough. But again, the good news is that these 15 mile per hour winds, 10 to 15 mile per hour winds, should bring in enough of a breeze, and if we bring the humidity down, that could allow the body itself to actually relieve some of that heat a little bit better, so we may feel better, okay? So that's why that feels like temperature matters. Really, when it comes to your experience, that makes a difference. We could also be able to bring these overnight lows down a little bit. In fact, that's why they don't jump quite as much, because again, you have that the humidity that drops. It allows the temperatures to fluctuate there a little bit better. So you think about a cloudy night, it kind of maintains that warm air, a little bit of that warm air, so it doesn't allow things to cool down as much. It's the same thing, except in our case, the humidity, all the water droplets are in our air all the way down here at the surface. You get rid of some of that, you cool down a little more efficiently as well. So we could be looking at some overnight 70s here too, which would be a lot nicer without so much humidity. Now, we do drop the temperatures off Friday into Saturday. We should see, again, that ridge continue to move out. And then, yes, Sunday, looks like we could be looking at a cold front, could be looking at temperatures in the 90s, which you know it's a bad situation when 90s sound great to you, especially upper 90s. I'm skeptical, though. This should be a weak front. We're still going to have some resistance to that front, so time will tell if that front's actually going to move in. Some have storms in the forecast. I'm not quite putting it there yet. We'll have to watch and see what happens there. But we could at least bring the temperatures down a little bit, and if the front is able to come through, that's drier air as well. So, plenty to look forward to when we get to the weekend and the beginning of next week. For now, though, just keep in mind, again, high humidity the next couple of days. Wednesday, Thursday could be a little bit lower humidity, which again could make the heat, even though there's those air temperatures go up, could be a little more bearable. And then yes, towards next weekend, beginning of next week, yes, we could be looking at a little bit of relief. So hang on. Stick with us and stay tuned as we look to the next weekend. First, I want to look towards the middle of the week and see how much of that humidity we may be able to get rid of. And then, yes, we will be watching the beginning of next week for what could be somewhat cooler temperatures for our area. Stay tuned. More updates to come.